6:30, we're going to begin our meeting. We're going to open with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Alderman Ross, followed by the invocation by Alderman Heinzelman.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today. We thank you for all of the blessings that you bestow upon each and every one of us here in our City of Shavano Park, Lord. We know that all of them come from you. We thank you for our daily bread. Lord, I just thank you for a successful weekend that we had, and all the citizens and volunteers that came out for the Arbor Day and the Earth Day, and that you provided us overall great weather, that you provided so many opportunities for our community to meet and get together, Lord. Thank you for the safety of all that attended. Lord, I just thank you for the city, for the citizens, for the leadership, for all the volunteers that help make this city the best city in Bexar County, Lord, and I just ask that you watch over them. I specifically ask that you watch over our first responders, both in Shavano Park as well as our state and in our country, as they protect us and they give us the freedoms that we so much enjoy every day, Lord. Lord, I just reach out to you today, and I just also ask that you please be with those families in Toronto that were affected with yet another tragedy, Lord. And as we try to understand why these things happen, Lord, all we can do is go to you in prayer and know that we can trust that you are looking out over all of us, Lord, and there's a reason for that, Lord, and our faith in you has to sustain. But we specifically ask that you be with those families and the community that was affected by that tragedy, Lord. Lord, thank you for your Son. It's in Jesus' name pray. Amen. Thank you.
Amen. Okay, citizens to be heard. Zena, if you bring me the list. Okay, if y'all would, I'm going to give the first two names, and if the next person would be prepared to speak so that we can move forward. Rondi Whalen, followed by Suzanne Ream. If you would give your full name and where you live, please.
Good evening, Rondi Whalen, 103 Hunters Branch. I'm also a member of the City Council appointed Tree Committee, and I want to thank all of the participants, all of the people Saturday that came up here and worked, not just on Saturday, but it took many, many months of hard work from a lot of people, and we, to put it mildly, we done good. It was probably the best Arbor Day event, or as far as I'm concerned, that was the best event the City of Shavano Park put on. So thank you to all the participants and to all of the citizens that braved the not so perfect weather, but I tell you what, it's Earth Day, Earth needs rain. So it was very welcome. Thank you all again.
Thank you, Rondi. And after Susan will be David Pierce.
My name is Susan Ream. I live at 121 Mossy Cup West for 47 years. Honorable Mayor, City Council, I have a question. Do we say thank you enough to the entire, everybody that did over everything Rondi said? It was wonderful. Saturday's Arbor Day celebration was excellent. We know so much work goes into these events, and I want to say thank you. Good luck to all running for council positions, and a very special thank you to Mary Ann Heisel for keeping those of us who don't attend many meetings, for keeping us in the loop by the computer. It's fantastic to click on there and see everything that went on. Thank you, Mary Ann. I hope somebody picks up that ball and runs with it. A good city motto. Proud to live here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And after David Pierce is Randy Smith.
Mayor, Alderman, I apologize for the hat, but my wife gave me a haircut, and I didn't realize I didn't have that much hair up there. So I'm not quite used to it. Anyway, so I'm
David, your full name and where you live.
I'm David Pierce, 118 Fawn.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to talk about item 6.7, considering hiring a firm to conduct a 360 review of Mr. Hill. I'm kind of against this because I really think that it's a waste of money for these reasons. Forbes magazine said reviews are pointless and insulting, so why do they still exist? They say they are time-consuming, expensive, ineffective, and at improving performance. I think you, as the mayor and city council, shall be able to determine whether Mr. Hill's performance is satisfactory. If you do your job, you are responsible for how he does his. Not only is he responsible for agenda items, but is called by citizens daily about their individual issues. My experience is that he addresses issues in a timely manner. And I think if you do your job, we the citizens won't have to waste money evaluating any city employee. Also, I thoroughly enjoyed the Arbor Day. I thought it was a pretty good success. Next year, though, if I'm even on the committee, I would like to somehow figure out how we can get more than just 4 people in here listening to Mark Crozy talk about oak wilt. It was kind of scary, but it was very informative. He's a really smart guy, working on his master's degree, and he shared a lot of important information. So perhaps we can work on that. And I'd also like to thank all of you, and Mary Ann especially. I know being on council is tough, and you have other things you want to do, but I'd like to thank you. So, that's it.
Thank you very much. And after Randy is Corey Reynolds. Corey.
Hey, y'all. I'm Randy Smith, 115 Bobcat Bend, and I am the chairman of our Citizens Tree Committee. And I just want to thank specifically everyone involved that worked at this. The members of our committee were all involved. I don't know if y'all noticed, but we actually had 100% attendance of our tree committee members this year, of those that were physically able to get here. And so everyone really was involved and engaged in our process. Specifically, everyone at the city that we worked with, which, the city staff is fantastic. They put a ton of hours into this, which is certainly a different part of running the city as it might be, but they put a ton of hours in and were extremely helpful to us to enable us to have a good community event. I want to make sure that everybody knows that we try to make the event both a fun event and an educational event so that people from the community can come up and learn a few things and hopefully learn some things that help them help protect our environment that we have that's very unique here in Shavano Park. We also provide some services. The recycling service is fantastic, and it gives everyone a chance to not only clean out their closets and garages, but do it in really an ecologically responsible way. So everything worked out really good, and it's with everyone coming together that makes that happen, and I just want to really say thanks to everyone for being involved.
Thank you very much. And after Corey will be Dagny.
Hi, I'm Corey Reynolds. I reside at 203 Granville Way. I'm here tonight after some recent changes to kind of the visual feel of Pond Hill Road due to the recent striping of those roads, coming back from, I think, Easter vacation it was, and pulled into our neighborhood, our street, and found that somebody had striped both sides of the road all the way down for fire lane safety reasons. And it really has impacted the beautification of our area for those who live in Willowwood driving up and down that road, and really caught a lot of us off guard and by surprise. I went back through meeting minutes. I've gone back through everything I could do over the last few weeks, trying to find out where that decision was made. Was there public comment? Was there an opportunity for residents of the area to voice concerns about painting? There were never any no parking signs placed. There were never anything I can see. I'm a member of the Shavano Park tennis community. We never received an email saying there was a parking problem. I have heard from other people that there were some parking issues along that stretch of Pond Hill Road, creating a safety hazard. But I just don't feel that enough, comment was given or our opportunity to voice concerns. So the red stripes go down both sides, on the outside, on the inside of the median, just bright red, and has really diminished the appearance of that roadway. So I just want to bring that concern to light. If you haven't driven by it, check it out. And just for the future, there should be some better opportunity for that. And as that fades and y'all make a decision on, do we repaint it, do we power wash it, I think it would be left better in its natural state, and come up with other ways to manage parking issues through ticketing or booting or towing or other things, rather than affect the visual beauty of the area by painting. So that's what I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bill, I thought we had no parking signs along that road.
There aren't any no parking signs.
There were supposed to be. Denton was supposed to put some up. Okay, thank you. Dagny?
Hi, Dagny Florine, 111 Post Oak Way. And I'm sitting here listening to a lot of people talk about how wonderful the Arbor Day event was, and it sounds like it really was. I was not able to attend. I'm here to speak for the trees, because every time I drive along De Zavala, I see more trees have been cut down. I happened to pass by City Hall one day a couple weeks ago, and there were 6 burly guys with chainsaws in there taking trees out as fast as they could take them out. Every time it rains hard, that road that was put in between De Zavala and one of the Shavano Park water system wells, going north off De Zavala, every time it rains, the mulch that was laid down there, that made it look very nice, gets washed away. That means that more cedar trees are taken down because the mulch is promptly replaced. Eventually, you're just going to run out of trees on the Muni track, and maybe that's the intent all along. But I'm here to speak for the trees, not just the ones in the Muni track, but all the other areas that have been clear-cut in this city, particularly along Lock Hill, that will come down along Northwest Military when TxDOT starts its work, and out there by Paisanos. You know, I have to think, you know, we're asking for a slogan for Shavano Park, and honestly, the one that comes to my mind is Shavano Park. If you're a tree, run.
Thank you very much. Which brings us to item number 4, council comments. Mike Simpson?
I agree, Arbor Day was a lot of fun. I got in on the beginning and the end. It was a great job by everyone that did it. Early voting started this morning. It's going to continue through next Tuesday. I encourage everyone to take your time, go out and vote. There's a couple of things on the ballot that affect us, which include the city council, the sales tax for street maintenance, and then there's a huge bond issue for Northside. So get out and vote. It's Democracy 101. Thanks for coming tonight.
Michelle?
Thank you all for coming. As one of the original event coordinators, myself, Mary Werner, and Vicki Maisel are honored at how well Arbor Day, Earth Day has continued to grow and how fun and educational family event it was the best one we've had to date. They get better every year. I want to thank all of our sponsors, because without them, it would cost us a lot more, and to our citizen volunteers, which has been reiterated many times. I want to thank the tree committee, who last year began working with staff to organize a city-sponsored event. It's a big task, and I appreciate their hard work. I want to thank staff, especially Zena and Public Works, who handle the majority of the coordination for the city. I want to thank those on council who have worked and supported the event from the beginning. Bob Heitzelman, who did the recycling program with his family, Mike Colomere, who has kindly donated his talents, and the mayor, who created the Blackman poster contest and secured the Birds of Prey demonstration. It was a huge success this year. I heard nothing but praise for another well-done event. The only 2 negative comments made by a number of citizens were, 1, there isn't enough parking, and 2, they were displeased that someone was campaigning for a candidate running in a countywide race. Other than that, the event was a great success, and the after-action report will be posted once completed, and comments and suggestions to improve the event are always welcome from citizens. Thank you.
Bob?
Well, I'd like to give thanks to Ranger Shredding and Voss Lighting. They were our partners in the recycling efforts. We had a really successful recycling program this year. Again, we expanded to batteries and light bulbs. Unfortunately, our education and communication needs to improve, and we'll do that every year from now on. A lot of people came and didn't know they could do that, but they went back home and got batteries and light bulbs and said they'll definitely be back next year. We filled 7 pallets, which we tied the same amount that we did last year with electronics and printers and such, and very pleased. That's 4 years running, so we continue to maintain or grow that. And I got a lot. I had actually probably 4 different cars pull up with hazardous waste this year, thinking they could do hazardous waste, which we have been contemplating on city council. I would implore our council again to revisit that and see if that's something we want to provide for our city, because we have a disadvantage of not being able to get rid of those materials. So that's something I'll be pursuing as well. And then lastly, I did put on the agenda for next May. I wasn't able to get it done say on correcting some of the mistakes and grammatical issues within that ordinance. So stay tuned.
Mary Ann?
Good evening. A lot of thanks going out tonight, and I think the biggest thanks goes to all of you that get involved in the community day after day, and those that come to meetings. Thanks so much for coming out. I appreciate you being here.
Mike?
Thank you for coming. I also want to pass along my thanks to all of the people who were involved in the Arbor Day. I kind of worked kind of more or less behind the scenes in it. It's my favorite event. It's getting better and better. As an old falconer, I really liked to go out and talk to the birds of prey handlers. I know John Carger from way back. And I'd also like to thank Mary Ann for four good years. Thank you very much. It's been...
I normally don't take the opportunity to speak in the council comments. You all know that I speak way too much. In fact, I've had many of you say that I speak way too much. But I did want to take the personal opportunity to thank the Holloman Price Foundation, and specifically my son, Blake Werner, who grew up in our community. It is only through their generosity that the Birds of Prey were able to be here this year. He solicited their participation, and Holloman Price Foundation underwrote their attendance at the Arbor Day event, and I'm very pleased and I appreciate everything that they provided. Brings us to item 5.1, recognition, presentation to the Shavano Park Police Department for achieving Texas Recognized Agency status. Chief Lacey, and I've got Chief A.J. Sandoval III, Texas Police Chiefs Association. Chief is going to say a few words, and then we're going to come forward. Thank you.
Honorable Mayor, council members, and guests, good evening. It's an honor this evening to be representing the Texas Police Chiefs Association Recognition Program. My name is A.J. Sandoval, and I'm the Chief of Police for the Bexar County Hospital District Police Department and an executive board member of the Texas Police Chiefs Association Region 7, in which the City of Shavano Park resides in, and also serve as a member of the Recognition Committee as well. The TPCA is an association made up of over 1,100 professional law enforcement executives throughout the state who are dedicated to improving the delivery of police services. I'm here this evening to present the City of Shavano Park Police Department a certificate of recognition for achieving compliance with the Texas Law Enforcement's Best Practices Recognition Program. Several years ago, the Texas Police Chiefs Association developed an accreditation program for Texas law enforcement agencies. Many of you are already aware of accreditation programs for schools, universities, hospitals. These are programs of professional excellence that require independent proof of compliance with a set of rigorous standards. The TPCA Best Practice Recognition Program is an accreditation program that has 168 challenging standards. These standards address the full range of law enforcement operations such as use of force, the protection of citizen rights, vehicle pursuits, officer training, arrest, search, and seizure, patrol and investigation operations, and property and evidence management, just to name a few. This program has become the new gold standard for professional law enforcement in the state of Texas, and agencies across the state are working diligently to meet these requirements. This is a voluntary program. In other words, no one forced your agency to participate. Approximately 2 years ago, Chief Lacey and the Shavano Park Police Department began the process of proving its compliance with these difficult standards to a team of well-trained independent assessors. It's a rigorous process to demonstrate competency and proof. The agency had to conduct a complete audit of all of its policies, procedures, training, and operations in order to meet these standards. The process culminated in February this year when 2 trained assessors, they're police executives from other parts of the state, made an on-site inspection of this agency. These assessors interviewed staff, they inspected the facilities and the operations, they rode even with field officers, and they ensured compliance with all the standards. Their report was then sent to the TPCA Recognition Committee, which is comprised of 9 police chiefs from around the state who reviewed the report and voted to award recognized status to the Shavano Park Police Department. I'm pleased to report Our vote was unanimous. During this process, the Shavano Park Police Department has proven that it meets or exceeds all the standards. There are currently over 2,400 law enforcement agencies in the state of Texas, and only 145 agencies have achieved recognized status. This evening, we officially recognize the Shavano Park Police Department as the 145th recognized agency in the state of Texas. Now, what does that mean to you? The TPCA recognition program assures this council and the citizens of the Shavano Park, City of Shavano Park, that your law enforcement agency is operating in a manner that reflects the current best practices of Texas law enforcement. It also means that your agency is one of the very best in the state. The certificate we present this evening is a symbol of professional excellence. However, the real value of the program is the process that they went through to attain it. And this is not the end of the process. The program assists the agency in maintaining the continued compliance with these standards. The agency will submit an annual report and an analysis to assure continued compliance. And then in 4 years, we'll be back for another on-site inspection to ensure the agency continues to comply with the standards. Your police department has proven that they are one of the best in our state. You should be very proud of their accomplishment. Chief Lacey, would you please come forward? Okay, Mayor. The Texas Police Chiefs Association Foundation, through all that see this certificate, know that the Shavano Park Police Department have fulfilled the necessary qualifications and mandatory requirements of the Texas Police Chiefs Association Texas Law Enforcement Best Practices Recognition Program. By voluntarily proving their compliance with the Texas Law Enforcement Best Practices and the Texas Police Chiefs Association Foundation, Board of Directors does hereby award this certificate of recognition February 22nd, 2019. Congratulations, Chief.
I want to commend our police department, and I want to thank Bill Hill for starting this ball rolling. Without Bill's encouragement, we wouldn't have started into this process. And we have an absolutely amazing police chief. He's the best police chief that we've had in the over 20 years that I've been involved in the city of Shavano Park. I remember when my dad helped in the process of hiring one that was about 3 ago, and I look at my dad's selection, I look at Chief Lacey, and I know that my dad would have chosen Chief Lacey as the #1 candidate if he'd come through at that time. We are very, very fortunate as a community. This is our #1A and our #1B being our fire department agencies in Shavano Park, and we appreciate everything that y'all do. Y'all make us all feel safer every night. So keep up the great work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mario. I just want to quickly say that Sergeant Mario Nakazano, that was up here with us, was the program manager. So the person who day-to-day did all the work, who was putting all of these 168 standards together, pulling the policies, finding proofs that we were following the policies, was done by Mario. And without his hard work, we wouldn't have been able to get to this point. I may be driving the train, but the train doesn't get there if we don't have every person that was helping pedal it to get there. And Mario was a big part of that. So that's why, as the program manager, he is part of that and deserves a big hand for all the hard work he did.
As our next item, we have a proclamation for Julia Singer, 2018 Prudential Spirit of Community Awards. Julia, would you mind coming forward? Let's step up here. As the mayor of Shavano Park, there's nothing that makes me and the council members and our citizens at Item 6.1, public hearing, receive testimony and written evidence from the City of Shavano Park residents and property owners on proposed changes to the city's ordinance regarding minimum allowable sizing of parking spaces in non-residential zoning districts and allowing compact parking spaces and planned unit developments. It is now 6:58. We're going to begin our public hearing. Bill?
So just a little background, I'll just kind of say most of this is kind of like a housekeeping piece that we need to tweak here. Last year in August of 2017, Bitter Blue had approached us with a request for a PUD, planned unit development. And in that PUD, which was a commercial development, they requested that it include compact spaces. And when we looked through and we were doing the staff work associated with that, we noticed a discrepancy in the definition of parking spaces because they're captured in two different chapters of our ordinances. So upon further review, and we had it on our list of things to do, but it wasn't one of those high priorities, we've now got to a point where we can bring it to you. So I'm going to break it down into, a further analysis says there's two areas that we needed to address. First was this definition of parking space, which I'll go over in a second. And then the second one is we actually did not have any definition of a compact space or any ordinances governing compact spaces. So first approaching the definitions of the parking spaces. And so what you see on your screen there is you see Chapter 36.1, which is our zoning ordinance, provides one definition, which really essentially restricts a parking space to 10 by 20 feet. Chapter 32 also says it should be 10 by 20 feet, but makes an exception in commercial parking for less than that. So what we're proposing to do is essentially take the Chapter 32-19 definition and then make that the same as in Chapter 36.1. That really came about in the development probably in the early 2000s, maybe 2010, where you had increased development of the city, and it became apparent that large parking spaces resulted in more concrete, less green space, because we have a ratio of parking spaces required based upon the size of the building. So you had a situation where you had developers come in, they wanted to put a building in, it required X number of parking spaces, which took up more space, and it limited that. So there was a period of time where that definition was relaxed so that you could have 19-foot, 18-foot by 9 parking spaces. So that's where you see for all non-residential parking spaces, the parking space shall be no less than 9 by 18. That was done previously. Currently, most of our parking spaces are 9 by 18. So in theory, those parking spaces which were approved are in conflict with Chapter 36, but not in conflict with Chapter 32. So that's where that went. Next slide. We also had a need to regulate compact parking spaces because we're seeing more and more of those come in. It's not a large percentage, but most of the developments have a small percentage of compact spaces. And the developers have been proposing that in the planned unit developments. So what we figured out was we didn't have a definition. And so this ordinance proposes a definition which prescribes the width and the length, and that would be 8 feet by 16 feet. But it also allows that the consideration and the approval will be done during a planned unit development process, which then goes through public hearings, it goes through planning and zoning, and then it's brought to the council associated with that. So that's the essence of that. The ordinance provides those two simple definition amendments associated with that. For background, this was talked about in the April 4th Planning and Zoning meeting, and there was some guidance given to the staff to rework that. And then on, actually it was March 7th, it was discussed, and there was some guidance given to staff. And in April 4th at the Planning and Zoning meeting, a recommendation to forward to City Council was approved, and therefore this is the action coming from Planning and Zoning, and it was their recommended course of action. I'll pause.
Okay, this is the time when citizens may come forward and ask any questions or make any comments concerning this item. If there are no citizen questions or comments, we're going to close the public hearing section of this meeting. It is now 7:06. Brings us to item 6.2, discussion action ordinance number O-2018-004, amendments to the city's ordinances regarding minimum allowable sizing of parking spaces in non-residential zoning districts and allowing compact parking spaces in planned unit developments. This is a first reading. Bill.
Mayor, I think I summarized the key points and components of that. I'm available to answer and clarify as needed. Also, I see that the chairman of Planning and Zoning Commission, Mike Jansen, is here also in the audience.
Okay, Mike, would you come to the lectern so that council members may direct any questions to you? Do I have a motion concerning ordinance number O-2018-004?
So moved.
We have a motion from Alderman Ross. Do we have a second? We have a second by Alderman Heisel. We're now open for discussion. Do we have any questions to extend to either the city manager or the Planning and Zoning Commission chairman? Okay, if there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Item 6.3.
Mayor,
Yes.
I have a point of order. I would like to ask that we get a consensus of council to move this item 6.3 to follow the presentation by the chairman of P&Z, currently item 6.4, so that we may hear the chairman's report before we discuss surveys.
Okay, without objection, we will move to item 6.4. Is there any objection? Okay, item 6.4, discussion status of the town plan update. Mike Jansen.
Good evening. Mike Jansen, Planning and Zoning. Y'all referred this to Planning and Zoning about a year ago now. It was last April. And Bill and I were discussing it and decided y'all probably needed an update since it's been a year now. And I know you have in your packet the staff summary, which I'm sure you've looked at. But briefly, y'all referred this back in April of 2017, and we started taking it up in June of 2017 and started holding public hearings in July of 2017. We've held 7 public hearings. Each public hearing was based on a survey that was sent out, I guess 30 days or so before the public hearing to get citizen input. Those surveys weren't closed until February of 2018. Even though we had the public hearing, we left those open so citizens could respond even after our public hearing and after our planning and zoning discussions. So in January, we held our last public hearing, and in February, staff started writing an update to the town plan. We have looked at there are 7 sections. We've looked at 5 of those sections, the draft of the town plan. No votes have been taken. All we've done is review them. As chairman, I asked for commissioners' input and changes and recommendations, and in some cases, we're still waiting on some of those. In May meeting, we're going to be taking up Northwest Military Highway, and the June meeting, we'll be taking up the municipal tract, and shortly thereafter, hopefully, we'll start looking at getting the town plan completed and send that to City Council for your review, whatever action y'all want to take. So
Okay.
that's kind of where we stand now.
Okay, do I have 2 council members requesting discussion?
I would.
Bob Hanselman and Mike Simpson. Okay, we're open for discussion. Do we have anybody that would like to ask any questions?
I'd just like to say well done. You guys have worked hard on this, and we appreciate all the work that P&Z has put into it.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments, discussion? Bob?
I would echo the same sentiments. You guys have spent a lot of time on this. We gave you a big job, and I know there's a lot of information that the citizens are going to be interested in seeing. It sounds like to me you're still waiting on some input from some of the other P&Z members and feedback, so maybe this isn't completely complete.
No, we gave them a lot of information, Bob. You know, when we went through the staff information, the staff writing, and I assisted in that. But we gave that to them at the meetings. We kind of went through at the meetings. And in fact, that's also on the agenda for the May meeting. But we asked them to please review it, to come up with questions, and we really encouraged them to make any changes they wanted to make to the language included in the town plan. And so I think we'll see, more changes than what you've seen to date. I think you'll see more changes. And again, I think they were presented with the military highway draft language as well.
They will be in May.
Okay, they will be in May. No, I mean the city council.
No.
Okay, they haven't seen it. Okay, so we have draft language for military highway, which will be presented to planning and zoning, and hopefully we'll get a lot of input back from our members. And then again, Bob will have municipal tract in June.
Okay, do we have any other questions, comments, Mike Comer?
So you expect to maybe bring a consensus or a plan or recommendations from planning and zoning midsummer, something like that?
Obviously, I would hope so. We need to, I'm pushing to make sure, I'd like to get an 8-0 vote on this. I'd like to make whatever changes we have to make so we can send you all a document, hopefully that all the commissioners support. So however long it takes to get to that point, right after that, we'll send it to city council.
This is the one issue that we're all waiting on. Right now, it's a big thing. We want to see it. We want to see it done right, and y'all have done a great job so far. I think as a council, we should be very careful about expressing any open point of views from up here that may be led to trying to steer the commissioners in the direction we kind of want them to go. That's my only concern. I appreciate everything y'all have done.
I think, if I could, the one commitment I made to Mary Ann asked twice that we include the 2014, whatever the survey we had back, I think in 2014, and I committed to Mary Ann at that time that it was my intent to include that. Now, obviously, I can be overridden in planning and zoning, but it's my full intent when we write that for the municipal tract that will be included as requested by Mary Ann.
Okay, do we have any other questions or comments? Mary
I
Ann?
do. I really appreciate all the work that everybody on planning and zoning has done. I know it is a lot of work, and you as chair have to kind of be involved in sometimes herding cats. So good job on all the work that you've done. I made some notes. I don't know if this is part of the next agenda item in terms of asking questions. I would hope that for the next agenda item that Mr. Jansen could be available to answer questions. If you want to wait for me to ask questions at the next agenda
If you want
item.
to include him as a speaker in your agenda item, you're perfectly welcome to.
If you don't mind.
I don't mind at all.
There may be no more questions. I may have the only questions. If everybody's questions got answered, then I can ask them now or go to the next agenda item.
We can go to the next agenda items, fine.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you, Mike. This is not an action item, so without objection, we'll proceed to item 6.3, discussion and review of survey results for town plan. Mary Ann, this is your agenda item.
Thank you. Again, I wanted the opportunity for council collectively to be informed as to what had taken place thus far in terms of the town plan work that had been done, and to be able to ask any questions. And so that's the purpose of this agenda item. I have questions, but if
Okay, do I have two council members who would like to sponsor this for discussion? Simpson and Mary Ann. We're open for discussion.
I just want to say I'm not going to have any questions because I don't believe I should be commenting from the dais at this point because you have yet to present us a complete package, and that won't be until later this summer, and I don't want to make any comments.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Mike?
I have the same opinion. I don't want us to since the council has to decide on this thing, and I don't want to discuss it from my point of view, until I have planning and zoning's recommendations. So,
Okay.
I
Anybody
have
else?
the luxury
Mary Ann?
of not being on council after May, so I would like to take the opportunity to ask questions if I may. Because I think that all the information is public record. It's nothing that any resident couldn't come up and ask for at any time. Am I correct? Okay. And as council members, we have kind of an obligation to let people know where we stand on issues. So that's where I've always come from, and that's not going to change now. Looking at the materials that have been provided, I guess I would like to give you the opportunity to answer questions as to how those SurveyMonkey questions came up, who all was involved. I know the city manager has always done a good job of trying to explain it. As the chairperson, if I would ask, how did you guys go about coming up with the survey questions? And did you guys work as a committee, or was there staff help?
I'll give my input first, and then maybe Bill or Curtis can. Bill and Curtis, I don't know which, maybe Bill, maybe Curtis led it, but basically they would show me what questions they wanted to ask, and then I would look at those questions and say, sounds great, but we need to add this question, or sounds great, but maybe that question is not as important as this question. And so I would just make recommendations. I really wouldn't have a hatchet job and tell them, don't ask that question. But I think the process sort of started with Bill and Curtis, and then they'd send it to me, and I would edit it and make suggestions, add questions, do whatever I felt was necessary before they went out.
Okay, so there wasn't a subcommittee on planning and zoning that did all that?
No.
Okay. There's no page number, I guess maybe page 2, and I don't know if you have a copy of it in front of you. We talk about public participation and input, and you give us a breakdown of how many folks thus far have responded and who participated. In addition, our engineers and TxDOT kind of came and made some presentations. Given the involvement of our developer, to what extent were they involved, if at all, and able to weigh in? And I ask that because in some cases they're given a role, particularly with respect to hike and bike, and input that they need to weigh in. So could you answer that?
The first 2010 town plan, Laddie and his staff was very, very involved. In the revision and the update, I don't really recall them being involved, except they would make the commercial and residential presentations to us that we would take into consideration. The same one they make to y'all, the commercial residential updates that we get. And I think that was really the only involvement. They weren't involved, as what I remember, and Bill, and please correct me, if I remember, they weren't involved in any questions, any discussion, and I don't think they made presentations at our public hearings.
Okay, I just asked because their work in terms of getting paths and walking trails, sometimes what we want and what ends up being able to get done, they're at cross purposes, and if we had either gotten them involved from the get-go, it's helpful. So.
And let me make one correction. While you were talking, I was thinking, the only question I asked, they were here for another matter, and I asked, I think we were discussing that night whether apartments should be allowed or not allowed, and the citizens voiced their opinion. We don't want to have apartments or townhomes in the city, and Mr. Denton also said he had no intention of putting apartments. He didn't want to put apartments in our city, and so I think that was the extent of their involvement, as I recall.
Well, we have been discussing for the last couple of years hike and bike trails, sidewalks, and it's been a continuous process. They've given us updates semi-annually, which elements of that's been discussed, as well as the commercial and residential. So because most of that, there's not a whole lot of decisions left to be made, it's kind of evolved into it is what it is. You know, from my standpoint, I think we're very well informed in terms of commercial development, because there's only a few elements left to be developed, as well as the residential piece. And then the hike and bike has evolved into a sidewalk, a 6-foot sidewalk, and a lot of that's been completed. So in terms of the actual development of this plan, it's originated from the citizens and from staff. I haven't staffed anything with them at all in terms of, do you approve us doing this? Now, they've seen elements of it as they've attended the planning and zoning meetings, and there were several of them that they saw, but.
And to be clear, it's not a critique.
Yeah.
It's, you know, when you look at the original town plan, for example, there was a hike and bike trail that was contemplated up against the Huntington Wall that eventually was not allowed to be put there for a variety of reasons, and I think the developers had input or at least some information related to that. And so to the extent we're discussing hike and bike trails in the town plan, I was, you know, just interested in knowing what involvement, if any, and I appreciate that input.
And I appreciate that. We have had numerous discussions with them on what they will do and what not. In fact, Huntington residents have asked for an additional sidewalk in which they're going to put in, and it's going to connect into the Salado Creek Trailway, and that's all. And we've added that into the trail plan, as well as the east-west access from Lock Hill Selma all the way to Salado Creek.
I would just show on page 7, strengths in the green box, that's misspelled. I'm taking a page after Mr. Jansen because he narrows in on those things, I know, when he's doing documents.
I missed it.
On page 10, we're talking about existing conditions, ad valorem tax rate, and we've got the city in a box with San Antonio, Hollywood Park, Olmos Park, Alamo Heights, Terrell Hills, and Fair Oaks Ranch. And to show the tax rate, one thing that I had a question about, I'll let y'all get to it. I think it was back. It's page 10 of the document.
One down, slowly.
No.
Well, mine says page 10, but I think
There
it's,
it
I
is.
guess it's page 11. So one question that I had, I guess I've got a couple of questions about it. In thinking in terms of why we're boxing this group together, why are we doing these particular cities together? Do you know? And is there any additional information that might need to be added?
This basically is the list that we had in the previous 10, and we're updating it. During the presentation to planning and zoning, they suggested that we add Castle Hills.
Who's they? Planning and zoning?
Planning and zoning, so we added Castle Hills.
Okay.
So the Planning and Zoning Commission's reviewed it. We took their input and added the one city they wanted. If there's others, you know, we're not opposed, I mean,
I was just questioning because one thing that when I looked at it, what I did was I went to Google and just look up, okay, what are the populations for these cities? Number one, and then number two, how many of these cities have, for example, a park, a pool, a community center? And every single one of them do. For example, San Antonio, well, I didn't even look at that because obviously they do. Hollywood Park has a park and a pool. Olmos Park, maybe somebody can correct me, that's part of, I think, the San Antonio Parks and Rec. And that contains amenities that can be rented out by residents or non-residents alike. Alamo Heights, they have a pool and a park that the city stopped operating and maintaining in 1989. Now I think it's third party that handles it, and Family Pass, for example, costs $500 per season. Terrell Hills has a park and a playground open to the public. Fair Oaks Ranch has a country club. So, you know, I'm just curious as to why those are included there. And given, you know, there are some things that maybe we add to the blog to show, here's how we're different, here's how we're alike. I don't know.
The only comment I guess I have is I never considered whether they had pools or playgrounds or not. I think we did this same chart back in 2010, and all we tried to do was update the chart. And since we have a sister city right down the road, Castle Hills, we thought it'd be a good idea to add Castle Hills, but I didn't think beyond that.
And I'm the one who picked the list. And when I picked the list, it was based on cities that I considered comparable to us that we wanted to be in the same ballpark with. That's why I picked Almost Park, Terrell Hills, Alamo Heights. Yes, they have things that we don't have, and that had always been part of the discussion, but those are cities that we are compared to. When I'm selling homes, people are looking in those cities and our city. So that's why I picked them.
I wonder if it would be safe to say that one reason our tax rate is low is because we are not having to pay for things like parks and a pool. And given that those are differentiating issues,
Yep.
it might be interesting to put at least the population and some things that are differences for us.
The only comment I'd make is, obviously, we hope that these will go to residents that are looking to move into our city. I'd prefer not to stress negatives, like a community pool. If we're going to stress something, I like to stress, look at our property tax rate compared to everybody else's property tax rate.
Yes.
But, I'm certainly not opposed to,
Well,
to
I
including
mean, I thought the town plan was for residents, not necessarily for people
that.
to
I think it's,
be able to sell houses or,
No, it's
You
for, we've created it to go to developers to use, to bring in commercial business and for builders and for people who are moving to San Antonio or wanting to move to our city and looking at it. It was for a whole range of people.
okay. I'm just, as a resident and as a taxpayer, it might help me understand a little bit why our tax rate is lower. And part of that is because we're not paying for a pool and a park.
True.
That's just a note that I had on that page. On page 14, the Edwards Aquifer Recharge Zone. Okay. It talks about the city being located over the environmentally sensitive Edwards Aquifer Recharge Zone, and that we, anything that we do has to be regulated by the Edwards Aquifer. And, I know way back when we were talking about I guess it was the core survey, the water pollution abatement plan, that was a big thing we talked about. So I guess the question that I have is, I note there that in 2017, we did a rain garden. So did the city have to do anything to meet Edwards Aquifer and TCEQ standards for the rain garden? Do you know?
No, the answer is no.
We didn't? Okay. So do we know what kind of EAA and TCEQ standards, if any, will have to be met with regard to our environmentally friendly parking idea?
Yes. Essentially, if you'll recall the feasibility study, we have a WPAP. It actually said that we can probably develop up to 30% of it without going back and reapplying for a new WPAP.
Yeah, Bill, that's not on the agenda tonight to
Yeah.
talk about the environmentally friendly parking, but thank you.
Okay. So I don't know if we want to go through I guess I'm the only one who wants to go through the survey results. And if that's the case, I would ask to combine agenda item 6.5 so that we can, I had made some notes to go through these survey questions.
I'm wondering why we can't postpone this until P&Z comes back with their completed report, because making comments now is in their work order process, and I don't think that we should be making comments at this point, and I'd like to postpone it until P&Z is ready to make a full presentation.
Okay, are you making a motion to
moved.
postpone? Okay, we have a motion to postpone. Do we have a second on the motion to postpone? We have a motion and a second to postpone. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
The motion postponed carries. The item will be considered according to Alderman Ross, when
Mi-
the
Mr. Mayor, point of
result comes
information.
back from Planning and Zoning Commission. Yes, sir.
What did we just postpone?
Discussion of this topic.
What's this topic? Yeah,
The
I'm
review
asking
of the
mayor,
survey,
please.
the review of the survey results.
Okay,
That's the
thank you.
item, that is the agenda item that's before us right now.
It was my item to postpone.
Is that a clarification? Yes, sir. Okay. Okay, item 6.5.
Could I get clarification again as to why?
No, actually, it's a motion to postpone, and there's not any discussion that goes into whys or what happens or any of those things, other than that there was a motion, there was a second, we stopped discussing it. At the moment that we stopped discussing it, we took a vote. We have a date certain for it to come back out, and the date certain for it to come back out is when the Planning and Zoning Commission comes to City Council with the recommendation. So which brings us to item 6.5, discussion action municipal tract. Marianne, this is your item.
Am I going to face the same
Yes.
objection? Then I guess I'm going to let you make that objection and voice for the record my opposition.
Well, Marianne, you do get to
what
open,
I-
you do get to have your opening remarks, and then you get to have whether there is you get to make a motion to continue discussion, and it can be seconded, and if it's seconded, then we will
Well, I
continue
move
discussion.
that we be able to discuss the survey results in their entirety, including the municipal tract.
Okay. Okay, we are now open for discussion on item 6.5, discussion concerning the municipal tract.
And I move to postpone, as I did with the last agenda item, because again, we don't have a report from Planning and Zoning who need to present to us before we start making comments. They're not prepared to have this
Your motion to
discussion.
postpone, you don't get to argue
Sorry.
the point, I'm sorry, you get to make your motion to postpone.
So done.
Okay, we have a motion to postpone. Do you have a date certain to bring till the
When?
Planning and Zoning Commission releases its reports? Do we have a second on the motion to postpone? Bob Heinzelman has seconded the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
The motion carries. The item is postponed until we receive the report from the Planning and Zoning Commission. Item 6.6, discussion action reschedule the regular city council meeting scheduled for May 28, 2018 to May 14, 2018 due to the Memorial Day holiday and for the purpose of canvassing the general special election to be held on May 5th, 2018. Bill?
So the background behind that is the normally scheduled council meeting on the fourth Monday of the month is Memorial Day, which is a city holiday. We historically then reschedule it to the third Monday, which in this case would be the 21st. But we also have a requirement to canvass the election, which the election is the 5th, and there's a window of time that has to be done, which is the 8th through the 16th. So an option is to, which staff is recommending, is we reschedule the regularly scheduled meeting from the 28th to the 14th. That'll allow us to canvass the election, and it'll allow us to take care of the normally scheduled business that we have planned for May. It would only be one meeting instead of two meetings back-to-back in May. So motion requested is approve rescheduling the regular meeting to May 14th.
Okay. Do we have a motion to reschedule the regular city council meeting from May the 28th to May the 14th and to canvass the votes on the same
So
day?
moved.
We have a motion from Marianne
Second.
and a second by Michelle. Do we have any discussion? There being no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion's carried. Item 6.7, discussion action, consider hiring a firm to conduct a 360 review of the city manager. Michelle, this is your item.
Again, so last time I put it on the agenda and wanted it to be part of the process. That obviously did not garner the support. I would still like us to consider doing a 360 review and have two council people be on the subcommittee to present to council what the options are of questions and firms that can be used and have a shorter time period than waiting till budget and waiting till next May to add this to the review process. So I would like to consider hiring a firm to conduct a 360 review of the city manager. I'm willing to serve on the committee, and anyone else who's also willing to serve can volunteer.
Do I have a motion to conduct a 360 review of the city manager within the next 3 months?
So moved.
No, go ahead and read that.
Oh. Approve conducting a 360 review on the city manager within the next 3 months. Create a 2-member council subcommittee to research and recommend a firm to conduct said 360 review.
Okay, do I have a second on the motion? We have a second. Okay, we're open for discussion.
I would move that this issue be postponed until after the election so that anybody who's, I mean, there's 3 spots open and 2 people that are going to be involved in that decision and doing the review might want to weigh in.
Okay. I have a motion to postpone until after the May 14th meeting. Do I have a second on the motion to postpone?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the item is still on the table. We are in discussion. Is there any discussion on conducting the 360? And, yes, Mike.
I would recommend we make a modification to the 2-member subcommittee that they are not named tonight, but would be named from the incoming council.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so that at the 14th meeting, that would be a new agenda item to pick the 360 personnel.
Correct. I don't know if that's an amendment to the motion or,
It is, and I accept it.
okay.
Okay. Okay, we have a friendly amendment with the second person suggesting it. Do we have any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mike, I'm sorry.
City council has 3 jobs, 3 responsibilities: set policy, adopt a budget, and supervise the manager. I don't see why we need to hire someone, especially someone out of budget cycle. This is not in our budget. We have just finished submitting our evaluations of the city manager. I think this is a expenditure of our time and our resources.
Okay, do we have any other discussion? Mike?
Well, I changed my position on this to go ahead and vote for it because I have just done the review, and there are some questions on there that I felt that I wasn't qualified really to answer. We could potentially have 2 new members coming on the council in just a few weeks, and they will be in the same position that I am to a certain extent, that they have very little contact time with city manager. And to me, I think it's something that would be, any kind of information you get is going to be helpful. I don't see that it being a big problem. It shouldn't be a very big expense, according to Michelle's research and agenda. So that's why I have decided to go ahead and go for it, because I did recommend we bring it back in the budget cycle. But I think that's it's fine to do it this way. I just think that we should include the incoming council members. There could be up to 2 new ones, and let them be a part of the process going forward, so that they're not dealing with something that's handed to them down the road. That's why I decided to go for this.
Okay, Bob?
So last time it was on the agenda, I made some comments about my experience with the 360 program and my corporate experience. And one of the concerns, and I think it was valid from the council, at least 1 or possibly 2 members, was that it should not be part of the review this time, and I would agree with that. I don't look at it as a review, though. I don't look at it as a performance review. As I stated last time, the performance review is happening. It's happened already. We're going to review it tonight, and that will be over with. It's an ongoing process by which we get to evaluate people, and not just their direct line of supervising folks, but people that they interact with all the time. And I will go on the record and tell you, this has nothing to do, I'm a huge proponent of our city manager, I've supported him, will continue to. He's got my vote of confidence. But I think anybody in that position should be open to that, and I think he is, but I think it's something that we should do to help continue to make our city better, make our leadership better. If there are things that he can improve on, then I think he would want to know that. So that's why I'm in favor. I think it has nothing to do with the current review period. I think it's something that would be beneficial, and I think Bill would welcome it as well.
Okay. Do we have any other, Mary Ann?
I guess the only thing that I would say, I would echo what Alderman Simpson talked about in terms of council's role, what we're tasked with doing. And secondly, if this is really about, there's no issue, there's no concern, then let the people who are about to get elected have a voice and weigh in.
Okay.
Well, let them vote on this issue. Let them vote on this issue. Postpone it until after the election and let them vote on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, the motion is to conduct a 360 review of the city manager within the next 3 months, create a 2-member council subcommittee to research and recommend a firm to conduct said review to be with the members to be selected at the May 14 meeting. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, without objection, we're going to proceed to item 7 so that we can come back to 8. And if there are any items that can be discussed before the public on items 7 and 8, we can get those out of the way before we go proceed to item 6.8. Do I have any objection? Okay, there being no objection to proceed to item number 7, all matters listed under this item are considered routine by the city council and will be considered at the request of one or more aldermen coincident with each listed item. Discussion will generally occur. Are there any items that you would like to discuss in items 7.1 through 7.6? Mike?
I'm not sure if it's 7.2 or 7.4, but I'd like to discuss the DEA drug take back.
Okay, that one is pulled then. Is that going to be you, Chief Lacey, or is that you, Chief Naughton? Okay, is it part of Chief Naughton's report? Okay. Is it within the scope of the police report, Charlie?
Is it in the agenda packet?
It's not in the agenda.
I would say it is because it's police department activity report. If that's part of their activity, it would be included in the agenda.
Is it a part of the item that has been presented to council, Bill, that the public could have reasonable notice that we might be discussing the DEA take back program?
I've just pulled up is it part of the report? That's really what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Is it listed as part of the report?
I don't think it's a part of the report. It's a part of it is a police function. It is not a part of the activities that we have conducted in the last 30 days since the last report.
So the Texas Open Meetings Act says you have to give enough notice to the public that they will know what you're going to discuss. So I don't know the answer to that question. If that is something that, based on the way this is listed and whether or not it's actually in here, I was looking to see, I would be comfortable if it's listed in the agenda packet.
Yeah.
If it's not listed in the agenda packet, I'm not comfortable.
Yeah, and I believe that's correct. Mike, we would be happy to include that on the next agenda.
And that's because
that would be too late, but then I have a point of information.
Are you asking me for a point of information, or?
Well, I'm asking to put my point of information, seeking permission to speak.
Concerning what? concerning the agenda, concerning the proposed agenda item concerning the DEA take-back?
Concerning when it's going to be, that's all. No, no decision
I'm going to ask that, I'm going to ask that with unanimous consent that we revert back to item number 4 for council member comments and extend to Alderman Simpson the courtesy of an extended comment out of order. Do I have an objection? Okay, Mike, make your comment as a comment, please.
Okay, my comment was, I understand there's going to be a DEA drug take-back next week. I was going to ask, how are we getting that information out, and what is the information? That's all. I just want the citizens to know how to get rid of their drugs. That's all. I'm not trying to be contentious.
And I'm sure Bill will send out an INFO to everybody on that issue, but thank you very much, and I appreciate your diplomacy in getting to that answer. Okay, are there any other items in item 7 that y'all would like to pull? Okay, if they're not, we're going to, we'll continue on to item 8. All matters considered in this item are considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion on these items. If discussion is desired by any alderman on any item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Do I have a motion to accept and/or approve items 8.1 and 8.2?
So moved.
I have a motion to accept and/or approve 8.1 and 8.2 by Alderman Simpson and Alderman Ross. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That brings us to item 6.8, discussion, action, annual review, salary for the city manager, possible executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551074 concerning personnel matters. Do I have a motion to conduct the annual review and salary of the city manager?
So moved.
We have a motion from Alderman Ross and seconded by Alderman Colomere.
Mr.
We're
Mayor.
now open for discussion. Yes.
We were supposed to receive the review, the results of the review before the meeting. They were handed out at the meeting. I haven't had a chance to look at it. And so I would move that we postpone the city manager review to the May 14th meeting and that it be placed first on the action agenda because we have not had a chance to see this before we get here, and conducting a review out of ignorance is folly.
Okay. I have a motion to postpone. Takes precedent over all other items. Do I have a second on the motion to postpone?
I'll second.
We have a second on the motion to postpone. All in favor of postponing item 6.8 to the May 14th meeting, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion carries.
Aye.
Okay. One objection, so we will, which brings us to item number 9. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a second on the motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second from Bob. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. The motion carries. We are adjourned.